So in other words, our food traditions really sort of outweigh everything else. Like literally, people glaze over when you start to talk about heart attacks and how it's associated with the gratons that you eat and the boudin that you eat and the hog head cheese. And it's like, you get this real serious dismissal because it can't be that. So the food is like so important to who we are that that's a real important ingredient, to get where I was.
That's Josh LaJaunie, and I'm Brian Falchuk.
The Do A Day Podcast, where you hear from the most inspiring people who have been through hard times, overcome them, and have turned around to help others with what they've learned. I'm your host, Brian Falchuk. I know because I've lived it myself. I've written about it in my book, Do A Day, and that's why I'm bringing you this show. Remember, today's a new day. Go out and do it.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining me for an episode of the Do A Day podcast. This time I'm interviewing someone who I'm still giddy that I got to talk to him. This guy, Josh LaJaunie. I heard him years ago on the Rich Roll podcast and then again on the Rich Roll podcast. And for those who don't know, that's my show. That's the show I love to listen to. I get the most inspiration out of. And Josh was one of those guests who just stood out to me because there's so much that I felt in his story about my own. This is a guy who was over 200 pounds overweight, living in South Louisiana, in a society, in a community that, health and wellness was just not, it wasn't even in the cards. It wasn't something they contemplated. There was a tradition of food and bigness and consumption that just, it didn't lend itself to being the right weight and being healthy. And this is a guy who overcame all that and didn't just overcome it for himself, but he dedicated himself back to the community, which is just, it's inspiring. So I don't want to take too much more time away from hearing Josh's message directly. So I want to jump right into it. But yeah, this is a really important show. I mean, this is like when I had the dream for the podcast, Josh was one of those people that I wanted to have on. So I'm psyched to share this with you. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Hey, Josh LaJaunie, thank you so much for joining me, man.
Oh, thanks for having me, bro.
This is big for me because you were like going back in my story. That first episode you did with Rich Roll was that back in like 2013, I think.
Yeah, it was. It was before I did my very first marathon. It was a big deal.
Yeah. You were just like I felt such a connection with you because we both have the obesity backstory. I mean, granted, you've been through a lot more with that than I have, but you've also been through a lot more since then, which is just so like you inspire me from the past side and all that you've been doing to date. And I was like, if I ever do a show, this is a guy who, if I could ever get him on, like that'd be it. So I'm pretty psyched to have you here.
Oh man, thanks for having me. It's cool to be able to, use what's really fun, like making friends and helping people better understand how to, finally break the chains of obesity and chronic disease.
Yeah.
And be able to do that and like pound that drum by really sort of doing something as fun as going out and participating in these races and things.
Yeah.
It's just a real special thing to be able to be of service while doing something that feels so amazing, to yourself at the same time. So, and I learned that from Rich. That's something that Rich always talked about in his podcasts. He always was competitive and an aggressive athlete, and he was serious about his training. And you read about that in his books, and you saw that with his Otillo effort.
That's crazy,
right? There's no half stepping. Like, we're gonna do the damn thing. Yet at the same time, he always talked about, and I don't want to get choked up, but like the bigger picture, like your fellow man and, your community, your tribe, and sort of being of service to those people in whatever way, the universe allows you. We don't get to pick those. We don't get to pick those. And so really sort of listening to him and kind of buying into his, a lot of his thought processes along the way around sort of just being present, being okay with thinking of myself as an athlete, because that in and of itself,
that's huge.
it can open doors that I would have never imagined before.
That self-framing, that's something I talk about a lot. Like we hold ourselves back with that, or we propel ourselves forward.
Right. And the surrender, like, surrendering to what is so much more liberating than trying to construct what you wish was. And, right. And so like figuring out how to be happy with the card I'm dealt, that is way more powerful than trying to get a different hand,
Yeah, I love that. Josh, I want to take you back to something you just said. I was going to ask you to go back through your story, but you made references to the tribe and the community. All respect to Rich because he's amazing, and we're both fans. But he's in LA area. Health and wellness is it's thriving there. That's not you. That's not your background. And so when you talk about giving back to the community, you come from a community that is. I mean, you've talked openly about your family was in the same place with obesity. Everyone around you. I mean, real South. So where are you coming from?
I'm coming so what he spoke about was talking to his community where you speak the language, and Rich does that, except there's a lot more Lululemon and lattes.
That's right.
In his community than in my community. So it wasn't necessarily about, in game, how to craft the message or how to talk about the thing. It's about really wanting to be of service to your community and kind of resonate these good ideas that we're learning about through a plant-based diet and getting outside and being healthier and more vibrant. Trying to get that message out to your community where you speak the language is important. And I speak the language here. I don't speak the language in Lululemon latte land. I don't speak the language there. I bet I could get along with people there, obviously, because we have some human commonality.
Yeah.
I think I get along with Rich pretty good. I mean, we have zero in common. Right?
You guys have a little bit in common now, maybe not 20 years ago,
right.
10 years ago. But so you're from Louisiana, and if people can't tell from the accent. So give us the backstory. Like, where did you come from? And when I say we have similarities in that obesity backstory, I talk about being 100 pounds overweight. You were what, like 230, right? Overweight.
It's all I mean, once we get over triple digit excess weight in our bodies, we're all kind of doing the same thing. It's all kind of the same sort of self flogging. That's what it's. Nobody's doing that because they like food so much.
Right. There's a whole other, like, food is a treatment for something else. So what is, like, I mean, other than deliciousness, what do you think was driving you to eat like that and growing up? I know that, the community, the setting was all part of that, and there's a consistency there, but what do you think was making the community sick?
I think just sort of a real honorable, I must say, like, desire to uphold a bygone, not culture, because the culture is still here, but sort of to uphold sort of bygone traditions.
Yeah.
As like the gold standard prerequisite for being a South Louisianan or a Cajun. Like, so in other words, our food traditions really sort of outweigh everything else. Like, literally, people glaze over when you start to talk about heart attacks and how it's associated with the gratons that you eat and the boudin that you eat and the hog head cheese. And it's like, you get this real serious, dismissal because it can't be that. So what? Yeah. So the food is like so important to who we are that that's a real important ingredient, to get where I was. It was, and then upholding like, the real hyper masculine ideals that I saw in, like, my grandfather or other uncles who were, the whiskey drinkers and the womanizers and the hunting and fishing and going to different, places around the country, cutting up, having a good time, doing these things.
It's like consuming life, not just food.
Right. And my grandfather taught it, we worked really hard. And then afterwards, we drank and played. I witnessed that from the time before I was able to drink on my own. But I witnessed all of that, and it was normalized. Like drinking a half gallon of whiskey in a couple of days was a normalized thing. Most people were like, wait, you're going to need a half gallon for 2 days? And I'm like, yeah, and it was like a normal deal. And so having all of those things sort of normalized and also really praised by the other people in the family with, boy, you're going to be big just like Bam Bam, who's my grandfather. Or you can outdrink Bam Bam, or you can.
It's pride in it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was even bigger than my Bam. My Bam Bam never got up over 400 pounds, I don't believe. And so, I was I was winning.
Yeah. Josh, there's something you've talked about before with your weight. When people ask me, you're like, you don't know. Because it gets to a certain point where it's like you just can't even weigh yourself anymore. I mean, logistically is one thing, you can't weigh yourself, but the scale's not going to handle it. But then it's also like emotionally, you just can't even see it anymore. It's like it's not real anymore.
Yeah, you don't want to know. You don't want to see it. Yeah, you don't want. It was scary to even want to see it. At the first time. Because I had been already working out for a while. I knew that I had no idea where I was starting from. So I knew the number was going to be really big. But what do I gauge it against? Because I feel like I've done really well. I had been losing. My clothes were thinner. Looser, and to hop on the scale and still see like it was like a shade under 400 pounds. The first time I'd ever seen a number on the scale.
Yeah.
After working so hard for like a month and a half, that was wild.
That's the thing about huge amounts of weight, or really any goal that's just like, it's astronomical. It's like as long as you look at that total amount, you'll never start. And if you go back to focusing on, like, you bust your hump for, like you said, a month, and it's like, man, I still have like 200 pounds to lose. Like, so it's not 230 anymore, 220 or whatever, but it's like, it's still so daunting. So how do you keep yourself moving forward? I know you talked about you and your buddy, was it Jeff? You guys were, he was there with you too. So you had, I think that's really important, having a community to support you through it, or someone that you're accountable to each other. Like, what was it?
It's always something different. So in the beginning, the biggest thing was for me, I wanted to not look so fat when I got my diploma at the end of that year, right? That's what drove me all through that summer. That's what drove me to start trying to jog again. Start trying to jog. That's what, in the middle of 2011, was I wanted to wear a smaller suit when I was going to have to make my presentations and stuff at the end of that year in 2011.
Yeah.
And that's drove me up until then. And then that came and went and was successful. And I was down several sizes, and I had lost 60 pounds, and I was all pumped up. And
can I ask you something? Can I cut you off? Because that's where I'm getting really curious about is, so you had a goal that was outside of you, and it had a time bound to it.
Yeah.
So what happens because this is like, I lost weight the first time because I didn't want kids in high school to see me as the fat kid. And then I lost weight, and I went to college, and no one knew me as the fat kid because no one knew me in college. And then, so like, my motivation was gone because I never had anything within me or something that would endure. So you're talking about something that was external and time bound. Like you lost weight for your graduation, but then how did you keep it going though? Did you find something new?
That's what running did. That's where everything changed, because it was after that goal being set and achieved. In the process of doing that, I started to flirt with the idea of this Crescent City Classic 10K. And there was no purpose behind it. You know what? This might help me with sustainability if you think about it. That was not the case at all. It was scared the living hell out of me.
Did you see it as impossible and you wanted to conquer it? Or was it like, hey man, now maybe I can do this?
It felt impossible, much the same way me ever getting my degree felt impossible.
Okay.
And
but you had done it.
Here I was doing it.
Yeah.
Like, who am I to say that I can't run a 10K? So what is 6 miles? Let me go put myself out there and feel that, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and I trained for it. And that's what that process of doing the homework of training and getting up and trying to stretch that mileage and trying to get your form right and figure out what you're going to wear and, you know, how you're going to prepare yourself. That is where all the learning is done for life in general. I think, like, to help keep you on that path. Like, it doesn't feel so monumental when you have an excuse to keep doing it because you're training for a race. That's what's happened to me in the, you know, as a side effect of this is. So I moved from that one place of wanting to just be less fat in a suit into where the race coming up was, wow, can I get it done in 90 minutes like this? And I'm like, and then running, and it's like, nope, I couldn't get it done in 90 minutes. But maybe if I came back all the way in a year later, a year from now, how could I do? Maybe I could get under an hour, right? So boom, there goes a whole year of me not even thinking about not getting fat anymore, not being fat anymore, other than the fact that I knew it would help me to be lighter the more I wanted to run, right? And so it took that year of me sort of flirting around and trying to figure things out, but really committed to being better at this running thing. And then the next year we did the 10K in 60 minutes, which worked out. And it was just all along the way, though, running is keeping me sort of hopping from one lily pad to the next of satisfaction and success and new frontiers and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's happening to me now in the world at large of just being and how I'm able to, or it looks like I'm going to be able to really scale up my ability to you know, to help people in a sense bigger than running. Or, you know, so it's just like Rich, when he had his super athletic, you know, adventures, and he did that stuff, and he's like, oh, and he realized in that process, there's so much I can do.
Yeah.
That's what he's finally seeing come to fruition, is putting that, what he felt and learned, I really think, from grinding himself on that millstone of endurance sports, and has really sharpened his tool and how he can most effectively help lots of people really reverse what we know are some very quality of life altering situations like chronic disease and obesity.
It's quality of life is such a crucial one. There's a word that comes to me also, is like value of life.
Yeah.
Because there's a piece of it that you recognize the value of your own life and then you want better. And that's, you know, hearing your story is like, you know, you started off for wanting to lose weight and you had the specific goals around, you know, with your graduation and then with the first time you did the Crescent City. But then it's like you valued yourself and your life enough to keep wanting to push yourself. And then it was about seeing achievement. Like, then it starts to be not just overcoming, but actually like grabbing things.
Yeah, right. Grabbing it. And there's a phase in there where people get tired of you. Oh, you still doing that thing? You know? And so there's a phase in there before it becomes permanent, I think, where you get really tested.
So they thought it was a phase.
Yeah. And then people start to really, you know, kind of get irritated. And then you know, I could understand how, you know, people sway on and off sometimes.
Yeah. So, hey, you know, you can have a phase for the entire rest of your life. There's nothing wrong with that. It can just be a phase.
Yep, that's right.
So, you know, one of the things that I know was really big for you was helping the family around you. So was that your first stop from a community standpoint in terms of giving back?
Well, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. I didn't really think of myself as giving anything back. I was thinking of myself as as a member of a family who has seen a lot of hospital stays, a lot of, ICU, CCU, emergency room, nursing home, dementia, Alzheimer's, cancer, a lot of that in my family. I lived that.
Yeah.
Whole family. Like a lot of that's not rare.
Yeah,
like
you're just describing everybody.
Everybody's family is like that. And after what I learned in Forks Over Knives and in reading Dr. Esselstyn's book, heart disease alone, is just crazy in South Louisiana, and it's in my family in particular. And so you can't unknow those things. Like you read that and then you're like, holy cow. And then you're not going to not tell your mom not take no for an answer. Also, this is not jokey joke. I want to sell you some Herbalife. Like this is actual life right here. This is information. And so it was really just out of not trying to be of service or to try to I don't know, help. I was looking out for the people that I love the most.
Yeah, it's love. It's love.
And it's kind of selfish in a way. Because nobody wants to be lonely. Nobody wants to feel like they're apart from the whole. So it's also a way to kind of get them into to habituate them in a similar way that you habituated yourself. And so you're not ostracized and you don't feel, apart from your family unit, So it's some very selfish drivers. And for me to get my family on board with eating a plant-based diet and trying to move and let's get and sort of reorient our ideas around health and our familial approach to health,
So are they all vegan now?
Yeah. What's that?
Are they all vegan now?
Yeah. Yes. Oh yeah. Huh? Yep. Mom, brother, sister, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, my wife, my mother-in-law. Yeah. Lots of our friends that, not that they, have gone, oh, you convinced me. No, the dad convinced them. They just read and they looked. They're pragmatic human beings who were also tired of watching heart disease, case after case, and family after family around here, and pretending like we don't know what's at the root of it.
Yeah. I heard someone talking about Cowspiracy the other day, and they're like, well, that's all fake.
Oh my God.
And I'm just like, okay, maybe that one is, which I don't think it is, but how about
them. Let's pile them all together. Yeah.
It's a different inconvenient truth.
Oh,
It's not the environmental one, but it's people don't want to hear it. And you see, you'd seen Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, right? You did the Joe the Juicer thing, right?
Yep. Yeah.
When he goes to there's some little local diner kind of restaurant, and you hear the line all the time. It's like, oh, well, if I can't eat that, I don't want to live.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, is your life that miserable that not eating this thing that's killing you? Come on.
And it's not that black and white. That's what's so frustrating.
Well, exactly. It's a continuum.
Like you continue to eat that way, and that's fine. But it's not like you're going to just all of a sudden die 10 years sooner than I die.
Right.
That's not how it's going to work. You're going to get high blood pressure. You're going to get repercussions of having that. Then you're going to have to get on medication to try and get that into check, which is also going to bring side effects and different repercussions of that. And then once you're on that and you're identified as a cardiac patient, there's a certain standard of care. There's a certain bevy of meds that you're going to get on default immediately as soon as you're identified as a cardiac patient, because your doctor does not want to get sued.
Right. So
we'll prescribe all of the things necessary to be able to prove that he was upholding the standard of care.
Yeah.
And you go, and it's just like you go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah. Once the dominoes start falling, that's it. You look at Joe in the process of making the first movie, the pills, the bags and bags of pills that he was on. And he weaned himself off of them. I don't think by the end he wasn't taking anything.
Yeah.
But he wasn't like 90 years old. He was probably somewhere in his early 40s or something when he made the first movie.
If I had good insurance, which I have decent insurance, but if I had really good insurance and a proclivity to go to the doctor's office fairly regularly, I would be on tons of medication. There's no doubt. There's no doubt that they can find reasons for me to be on a med.
You mean even now?
Yeah, of course. I think any human that goes to the doctor, if he's like, oh man, I'm having a bit of a thing. My ankle's been bothering me. You're gonna
take
get
this.
Script. You're gonna get a script for something.
Yeah. See, I have my annual physical on Friday, so now I'm kind of like, what's he gonna come up with?
Yeah.
Now I'm curious.
Yeah.
And
it's not that it's a conspiracy. Like they're trying to come up with things, but they don't
know better.
They just
the
right. They're right. I think
you're right. The lawsuits.
Yeah. They're complicit. But in a more innocent way, because they really are in this. I think because I know tons of doctors. I've met tons of doctors who are plant-based now. I mean, I know most of the doctors I know are plant-based doctors.
Yeah.
But they're all genuinely they all genuinely want to help people to a fault. They know that it especially some of these plant-based cardiologists. Like if anybody has anything to lose, it's cardiologists drying up, healing people, in a massive way. There's so much around that disease because it's such a number one killer.
Yeah.
Which think about the power of if the government started to really get behind, okay, we need to put everybody on who's a cardiac patient on Esselstyn's program, and it's a government mandate. It's our dollars. Here's what you would dry up heart disease. It would be crazy. And to see people whose livelihoods depend on that, like even Garth Davis, he depends on people needing, gastric bypass surgery.
Yeah.
But he's a constant. If people would listen to his advice, they would never come to him for surgery.
He put himself out of business.
Right. It's kind of gutsy what a lot of these guys are doing, I think. And I think it shows a lot of bravery, and I think it shows a lot of confidence in what is yet to come that's not even imaginable with our current states of mind, when it comes to how we're able to affect health in mass in this country. And I think they see, even though they can't really spell it out, I think they can see even more wonderful opportunity than what working on cardiac patients or gastric bypass patients for the rest of their lives would contribute.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, I think if you hopped in a time machine and went back, 15, 20 years, whatever, it's not just the way you look now, but it's what the knowledge that you have and the understanding of it. That's pretty wild. I mean, is it all from this journey? Like
What's
you
that?
Just like everything that you're talking about right now and the things that is it just the more you go down this path, like it's self-sustaining?
Oh, I love this stuff. Yeah. It's just all of the because I had to really prove to myself that you got to understand how big a deal meat is in my life. So for me to really buy into this thing, I mean, I kind of needed a certain level of understanding to be able to, because this is pretty life changing socially.
Oh yeah.
For me, especially, I think it's pretty. I mean, it's very different compared to how I've lived my life up until now, save the last 6 years, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel a certain duty to, okay, if I'm going to be an early adopter of this thing, then not only do I want to know enough about it that I can defend myself when people are going, well, why the hell are you doing that? But I also want to know enough about it. So in the process of protecting myself, if you will, and trying to earn that level of knowledge, you learn things snowball, and you learn things in that process that you go, wow, not only do I need to know this to rebut, but I need to like actively tell people about these things. And yes, it has helped a lot to befriend people like Garth Davis and Rich Roll and Howard Jacobson in the process. And
I was going to say, Howard's how I got connected to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, people like Rip Esselstyn, and like, it's so I live and breathe, this world, and I love it. I really do. It's because it's just so clean and so logical and accessible to anyone with a grocery store.
Yeah.
Around it. It's just such a liberating thing, I think, and it's just sitting there waiting, to get pushed over the hump and just, kind of realize that tipping point and just kind of let gravity take over, because it's such a no-brainer. It's such a no-brainer.
Yeah. If you let the knowledge in, it's a no-brainer.
Yes. It's such a no-brainer. But there are more and more like regular old country folk guys who, like myself, are doing the same thing. I mean, we all see people die the same way. All the deer camps and the fishing camps around the country and around South Louisiana, we all go to way too many funerals. That is a constant, persistent truth that no one can avoid and no one can deny.
It's just a question whether you want to see it, though, because we
disagree on how those deaths are, manifesting. But I would just encourage you to look at the data and please, hit me up if you have any questions, because I know some really cool people that will let me bend their ear that know way more stuff than me. So let's get to the bottom of this. If you think plants aren't the answer, tell me what.
How are you doing that today? How are you engaging with people to help open up their minds and move, move these communities? Like, tell me about the work you're doing these days.
Well, these days I'm working with, so I'm working with Howard. We started an online sort of lifestyle coaching program that Howard's really just kind of letting me be on board and drag along on his coattails, because he's phenomenal. The dude's brilliant,
awesome, and hilarious.
Right? And so I get to just kind of stumble and bumble and talk to people and be nice to people. And Howard gets to, recite, scientific papers and book titles and quotes from books and authors, and
which he's written or co-written like half of them too, which is crazy.
Encyclopedia of behavioral science, and it's just such a fortunate thing. But we, in the past couple of years, we've been able to help a few people really make some significant changes in their life. That is something I'm super proud of. Before I linked up with Howard and was able to do it his way, I was doing the best I could to just like, answer all of the social media private messages I would get. And so, and I would do that, and I would do that a lot of times through videos, like, so, because I work. And so I can't always sit down and answer in text a reply to a message. And so I found myself using videos, little clips, to just say, hey, I love your question. I hope you don't mind me, popping my face on here real quick. But I just wanted to answer that before it slipped through the cracks, because it's very important that I got back to you. And here's blah, blah, blah. Here's why. Here's the thing, whatever the answer to whatever the question was. And so we just sort of modeled a program that kind of mimics that. Like, so it's a lot of little clip videos of me the week, and Howard with a lot of tips and like inspirational homework, like things to do to just help people stay engaged. And what I think it does more than anything is sort of create some community around these ideas of these lifestyle and behavior changes that are necessary to manifest these utopian outcomes that we dream of. And you know, something better than what we have. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, so doing that, and that has really led us to other places, where we found ourselves with a tech company out of California, called Well Start Health, that really wants to like sort of merge what we're doing with the technological, you know, capacity that they have created with their online platform. So that's really exciting and seems like a real way to scale up even more how many people we can get the real simple plants and running message to.
Plants and running. I love that. 2 words. That's all you need.
There's some nuance to it, and that's why, you know, we have some explanation and we have some specificity that we break it down to. But you know, we do a lot of like group meetings online, so we can all see each other and talk and encourage each other, and that stuff is really been awesome. And to be able to have this what will be an app basically house all of the content that Howard mainly has created with our program is phenomenal. I mean, holy cow! Because I ran a half marathon one time, myself, and sent it to Rich Roll on Twitter. All of this stuff has come into my life. Like, it's the most amazing thing.
That's incredible.
Holy cow! We talk about science all the time and reading abstracts and all that stuff. And I'm gonna be a named researcher on a scientific work that's coming out. We're working with a team to, you know, do a proof of concept study, a randomized controlled trial of our like protocol, and how effective it will be in type 2 diabetes, which I know exactly if it'll be.
It's going to be incredibly effective.
Yeah, we do it all the time.
Yeah.
So
but you're going to have the scientific proof that people can't just claim this, that, or the other thing about.
So that has been an arduous undertaking. Like, I had no idea. And I see how, even if it's not in a corrupt capacity, money makes science go smoother, you know, because we were really kind of bootstrapping this thing. And, you know, if we had deep coffers, not that bribes would be needed or anything, just it could get done better because you could just throw more resources at it, more researchers, more people, more project managers, more people, you know, following up at a more intense rate or something. I don't know, but you can see how money makes scientific studies go round.
Yeah.
And that's been a real, you know, you hear it in the abstract, but until you see it, you know, with your own eyes, it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. I get it. Okay, this is how so much science is industry funded, because you need industry dollars,
big bucks. Yep.
Right, to do these things and jump through all of these hoops and do all of this IRB stuff, and it's all necessary. Like, you need everyone who needs all of the training that we had to do and so you need all of that stuff. But it's just, you can see how, you know, you can see how money helps.
Is it hard in the plant-based space, because it's not like if you're doing something that's pharmaceutical based, there's a company that's gonna sell the drugs and make billions of dollars. You're talking about you're talking about, you know, not eating this or that, not eating the things that are heavily subsidized, you know, by the US government, or, you know, with big food behind it, or what. You're like, where's the money come from then? Is it people who believe?
Yeah, it's just right now it's just being funded by WellStart.
Okay. Because it fits in with what their corporate message is. Yeah, their tech platform. Okay.
But it's a tiny entity, you know, so it's definitely a bootstrapping situation.
But it's a start.
It's a start, and but we have. I tell you, it's more than a start. We're you know, we're going to be you know, submitting everything Wednesday, so things are moving quite nicely, I must say. And we have a crazy team of the most amazing humans, and I just can't wait for everyone to be able to get the credit they deserve, and what I know is going to be an awesome contribution to the science on a plant-based diet.
Well, so Josh, this is the thing, is like if we plot your course, it started with just you in 2011, and that was my wake up moment too. So I was like, I didn't even realize the overlap in the timing. So feeling even more connected to you right now, but it was you, and then it was your family, and then it was the people around you, and then the people that were attracted. And then,
Right.
Through these connections that you start building there, through Rich, through Howard, through all these people, then it's a broader community through the coaching work that you and Howard are doing. And now with this app and this platform, you have the capacity, it sounds like, in the very near future, there's going to be a capacity to hit such a scale of impact. I'm unbelievably excited for you and for those lives, because there's a lot of impact and better that's about to happen for people who desperately need it. That's unbelievably exciting.
I've stopped trying to guess at what's next. I just wake up every day and set my feet on the ground and try to eat what's on my plate that day,
Yeah.
And wonderful things have sort of popped up serendipitously along the way, and I just couldn't be more thrilled. And it's just me following what my mentor, and just told me, what a mandate that Rich gave me. And the last thing he said in that first interview was, I could see you being like Phil, standing out and showing people how to strip kale at the local grocery.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really resonated with me. I was like, you know what? You got a point. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? If I'm learning all of this stuff, you're right, Rich. Why not? Why am I not in front of people telling them how to avoid heart disease and obesity and all of the other things that make our life less awesome, down here? This is a great place to live. And I don't think most of us get to live enough in it. We wind up existing and riding in the boat, riding on the four-wheeler, riding in the pickup truck. But while we're really miserable, instead of being able to use our two legs and really cover some ground around the swamps and levees and bayous and coastal, highways, and just really live here, in a more evolutionary sense, like animals. And and shoehorn those activities into our otherwise mundane, very man-made lives, and let's see what comes out the other side. I submit that we would be a lot happier, a lot healthier, and a lot better off financially as a country if we do.
I totally agree. I mean, I think what you're talking about is how most people go about their lives, is this kind of mindless day in, day out. You just do it without really thinking about it. You're not actively making choices. A lot of what you do, you feel obligation to instead of ownership of.
Yep.
And so you end up just falling into it. And you're talking about all these like mechanized ways of getting around. People hear like, oh, I'm going here. I'm going, oh, that's really far away. Things aren't all that far away when you run there. That's one thing I learned is like, growing up the fat kid, go to play at your friend's house 2 blocks away. It's like, can you drive me there? And it's like, it's 2 blocks, like, because it's a slog when you're fat and you're walking and it's hot.
Yep.
But if you get yourself moving, even if you get on a bike, like not everyone can run. And I get that, especially in the obese community, like if you have diabetes, there could be issues with your feet, like,
Sure.
So do something that you love that involves movement and involves engaging your body. And that releases things chemically, but also just potential wise.
But do it with the veracity you can. Do it with the veracity of what running would otherwise do to your body.
Yeah.
You need those intense spikes. And that's what I tell people all the time. Like, that's fine if we can only walk. I'm not dismissing walking at all. That is amazing. That is perfect. That's exactly what we're talking about. That is great. But every now and then we need to like
spike it,
challenge that.
Yeah.
Maybe walk like you're about to have a diarrhea fall over yourself.
Yeah.
Trying to hurry up and make it to the bathroom. Like whatever you need to tell yourself to do a little game where you could give me 30 seconds of everything you got.
Yeah.
And we can go back to relax, but we just need to do that every now and then, I think. And that's all. It's not about running ultra marathons. That's what I do. That's not, I'm not trying to turn people into that.
Yes, I want to ask you the ultra marathons because we've only hit on the half marathon and you've done so much more. What's the longest that you've done at this point?
100-mile race, one.
Wow. And between marathon and 100 miles, there been stuff in between?
Oh, yeah. I went 50K, 100K, then a 50-mile race. And then after that race, which was in early 2016, I decided to run my first 100-miler. I picked it in September, and I spent the whole summer getting myself ready for that 100-mile race. Lots of big 100-mile weekends and heat training and weighted vest in the middle of August, 18-mile runs around New Orleans.
That's serious.
Yeah, stuff like that. I spent the whole summer doing that to get ready for my 100-mile race, which I did in September of 2016 and did pretty well. I was pretty pumped. I wanted to get in under 24. I got in under 23 with 22:45. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
And the BQ still eludes me.
Yeah. The Boston qualifier. That's the only thing people get happy about getting older for.
Yeah, well, I'll be older. I'll be 3:15 this year instead of 3:10.
That's still fast.
It's still pretty damn fast.
See, look, I'm from Boston, so I grew up hearing low to mid twos, and in the 80s, people weren't quite down into the single digit twos.
Yeah.
So my first close friend to run Boston ran in 4 something, and I got this look on my face like, oh my God, what happened to you? Did you where did you fall? Are you okay? Not realizing that the average marathoner is not under 4 hours. So low threes is, for people who only know marathons from watching those 6 Africans who come in at 2:03 or whatever right at the front. That's not reality for the thousands of people who come after that. So, man, 3:05, 3:15, that's serious speed.
Yeah. And then, but I feel like I can do it.
I wouldn't bet against you, Josh.
I was feeling really good, in Liverpool. I was kind of hurt and then I kind of blew up in those little hills. There was only about 900 feet of gain in that race. But
it all came in a lump.
No, it just kicked my ass. I mean, I'm not used to trying to run at that pace and have hills.
Okay.
I didn't really know what to do. I didn't know how slow I could take the uphill. I didn't know how hard I need to run the downhill. And it really kind of messed my rhythm up. I wound up pushing too hard, too early, and running, way too hot and kind of blowing up about the halfway mark instead of
20 or 22.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I fought and fought and fought. I was still on PR pace until about BQ was gone at about mile 15.
Oh, man.
And then I knew by the way I was feeling. It wasn't technically gone yet, but I knew it was gone.
Well, yeah. You had experience to know, yeah.
Then I was like, well, maybe a PR. But then by mile 22, a PR was out.
Yeah.
I was walking in mile 22 is all I could do to just stay on my feet.
Oh.
And, it was pretty rough. But I know there's a bunch of things I did wrong. And so I've identified them and I'm looking forward. I got another race. I've got my next 100-mile race on my schedule and my next Boston attempt on my schedule. So
would you ever do Boston for a charity to get around the need to BQ, or do you want to do it you want to do it pure?
For charity, of course I would want to run for charity,
but you still want to BQ.
Yeah, there's something about going from being over 400 pounds to being able to not only be a runner who lost a lot of weight, but to be a guy who Boston qualified.
Yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it might not be for the right reasons, but you know, it kind of makes you want to, you know, it would just feel good, because I know
I understand.
some fast guys really look down their nose at you sometimes.
Uh-huh.
But not, I mean, most people are really good guys, but you know, it's subtle. But fast guys tend to kind of look down their nose at you when you kind of a newbie and you thinking that an 8-minute pace is fast, and like, you know, all of those kinds of things, relatively speaking, like when we talk about road running and marathon running and all. And I feel like taking up for those new guys, by being able to beat some of those fast guys. That would be fun, you know?
I love that.
And so it kind of drives me, and that might be unhealthy. I don't know. I don't really give a damn. That's
okay.
That's what drives me.
Yeah.
It's probably why I got hurt, but I will drive myself into the ground.
Well, at least, you know, like with Liverpool, if you have, you know, maybe failure is too strong of a word, but a tough go where you don't get where you're trying to get to. And it's just, yeah. But if you learn from that, then it's okay. If it's just a blind failure, or you can't get past the anger of it to see, like, could I have done this differently? What can I take away from it? Then it's a true failure to yourself.
Yep. This injury that I've been through since Liverpool, you know, has been the most gut wrenching, heartbreaking thing for me to endure. In, you know, mid to late 2017. But as I'm moving through it, and how it has changed me as a runner, not only in my physical form and how I'm trying to execute my runs, but also in my mindset around how I think about my body and listen to my body, I feel like I'm a more mature runner. And I feel like the training that I am doing is more likely to be able to be sustained over the long term, you know, which I think will ultimately make me a better, especially distance runner. And therefore, this injury, it might have been the best thing that ever happened to me in my running.
Yeah, I understand.
And being able to couch things like that to yourself is crucial. Otherwise, you wind up being under a black cloud perpetually, you know?
100%. I totally agree with you. I want to ask you I feel like I'm geeking out on the running side too much for what people might want to hear, but I don't care. I get to talk to you, so it's my choice. What's your favorite distance, but also what's your favorite distance to train for? And I'm curious if they're the same or not.
Yeah. I would say that my favorite distance to race would probably be like the 30K, I mean, a 50K to 50 miler or something in that range.
But so an ultra.
Yeah. I can't say that 100-mile is my favorite distance, because I've done it once.
Yeah, you need some more experience to know.
And completely crushed my soul.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time teased me a little bit as to how, you know, ooh, you think you can do that again? You know, so yeah, I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but I love those sort of long races that wind up gonna take you, you know, 5 to 8 hours or something. Yeah. That's like putting in a day's work for me.
Yeah.
You know, I enjoy a race taking that long, and the distance that you have to cover to get it done. Usually the scenery that you get to, you know, see while you're getting it done.
So long, you're taking so much, and these things aren't done typically in grotesque places.
No, they're usually done in beautiful state park vistas and stuff. And so, yeah, it's amazing. That's my favorite. Now, my favorite race to train for, I would have to say is probably the 100-mile race, because I am a glutton for big mileage.
Mm-hmm.
That usually means lots of group runs. That usually means, you know, because you usually do lots of long runs when you run in those big miles, and that means lots of contact time with your friends that you run these crazy races with.
Well, you're sort of getting in your favorite race distance as part of your training every time. Yeah.
And the trickiest part for me is to develop that sort of slow it down, vibe that has to happen in ultras. You know, people who
Mm-hmm.
consider themselves fast on the road, I find a lot of times have trouble converting that to the ultra distance. Not all of them, but there are a lot of times, you know, wanting to run like they run on the road in an ultra. And look, there are many guys that can do that. They're beasts, but usually people are going to slow down a lot. And so, you know, me just sort of understanding that I want to do these things until I'm 85 years old, and that you know, my longevity in this and my sustainability in this outweighs everything else. Has accidentally brought me to a position to probably be more competitive than I ever have been before, because I'm gonna, you know, go a lot slower in these ultra distances in the beginning, and I'm looking forward to how that's going to affect what I'm able to do in these races overall. So I'm really pumped. I'm really pumped to be getting back to it. But yeah, I love that 50K ish. They're just a little further than a marathon.
Yep.
But when it comes to training, I love the big mile weeks.
I hear you. You know, I'm wondering, and I know we got to wrap this up, but there's something that's sticking in my head when you keep talking about sustainability. And I wonder if, for those of us who have been through obesity, and, you know, a lot of people lose weight, gain it back. I mean, I gained back half of it before I had my wake up moment in 2011. But once you get over that and you feel like you've transformed, and so this isn't, like I used to say, I spent the first half of my life obese and the second half trying not to be, which is like, if you think about that, that's pretty terrible. Who wants to spend their life trying not to be fat? Right. But once you get over that and it's just like, no, I'm just a healthy person, then it seems to me like so much is about sustainability. Like, I just had knee surgery last fall, and people are like, oh, you know, how much are you running now? And I tell them, like, I'm up to 2.5 miles in a run. And they're like, that's it? You know, so many months later, I was like, yeah, because I'll add maybe 1/10 of a mile a week, maybe. Because I'm not trying to get to a marathon tomorrow. I'm trying to run for the rest of my life. Like that need to stay in this healthy place and have sustainability. And like, I'm not a fat guy. I'm not doing this to lose weight. I'm doing this for lifelong enjoyment. Do you feel that?
Yeah, it takes, and it's a learning process, because there's a lot of, you know, as a fat guy, you worry about what other people think a lot. I know I do.
Yeah.
And it's just something that happens. Because
do you still?
Yeah, I do. I think about what other people think about me, way more than what is probably recommended for a healthy individual, I would say.
Looks wise, or are you just saying in general?
Both.
Yeah,
both. Because I know, I mean, you know, I know there are the really uber fit people out there who go, look at this dude. He's not fit. Like, I'm not. I mean, I might be like 15% body fat, 12% body fat. And I'm kind of weird, deflated, jiggly around the midsection, and
we're similar, man.
Right. So I feel like a bit of a fraud when people call me weird names, like, you know, whatever, you know, and so, or say something about me being fit, or whatever, however they presume I look, you know, without clothes on. And that I know that the really super fit people look at me and go, you know, it's not very much. But then there's also other people that go, boy, I wish that would be super inspired by understanding that, golly, he was where I am now. And even though he looks a little funny, you know, I would take that over this.
Yeah.
And so being able to, like, I know people are thinking about me, and I might be hypersensitive to it as an ex-fat person.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, maybe not as many people think about it as what I'm imagining, but I'm sure some still do anyway.
Do you still see yourself as a fat guy?
Yeah, a lot of times I do. Yeah. I do, until I see myself.
Yeah.
But sitting in a truck, and I feel those like inflated rolls, you know, around my
look down.
boom, if someone snapped their fingers and all the clothes in his truck disappeared, I would look ridiculous, because all of my folded up belly in my lap and, my deflated thighs and stuff. And so, yeah, I have those issues. Yeah, I get it. And it's more about how we deal with those things, because they never go away. It's like, once I get over these body image issues, I'll be fine. No, it don't work that way.
Yeah.
We don't ever arrive. We don't ever arrive. It's about processing. It's about how you can process what's coming at you today, and have a really sort of have a I don't know.
We just came full circle, because where this whole thing started was this idea that, like, seeing yourself as an athlete.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where we're right back to is, the body is still what it is. There's the baggage we carry with us from when we were the fat guy or the fat kid or, whatever. And we're projecting that judgment on us, but like on behalf of other people. And they may not think anything, but we think they are, or because we're not comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But the freedom of being like, and that guy who's thinking that about me, I can school him. He cannot run what I can do.
Can't touch this.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's one of the things that drove me. It's like, I might be 200, because at the time, like whatever I might have been weighing at the time, I might be 250 pounds or 230 pounds or whatever, and still flabby, because boy, from the 280 range all the way down to the 200 range, I was super flabby.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about it. I had lost a whole bunch of weight. I should have been really awesome, and I should have felt really good about myself, but I was the flabbiest I'd ever been, because I was so deflated at that point, and so I used to think to myself, he might have just beat me by a nose at the finish line, but he's not running with all of this extra weight.
Right. You gotta handicap it for that.
Yeah, exactly. And then to know, like, I may not have abs or, want to walk around in a Speedo, but, I can run a 1910 5K.
Wow.
I used to weigh 420 pounds, and I'm still like 6'3.5" and 190 or so.
I mean, you're alive, first of all. Like, a sentence that starts with "I weighed 400 and whatever pounds," like, but you're such an inspiration, man. So I'm excited to get all this out of you, and I'm so right there with you at the same time. But there's something really liberating about, like, I keep telling people, the first time I called myself a runner, I was alone. I was on the phone with someone, and I like looked around like someone caught me saying that, like they're gonna call me out for lying. I felt so uncomfortable.
A good friend of mine, we were on our way to brunch, and I had started losing weight, but I hadn't started running yet. No, I had started running, but I was just jogging. I was just using running as a weight loss tool back then. And we were coming back from brunch, and there was a person running up Magazine Street, and they had a belt on with bottles. And I looked over at my buddy Nick, and I was like, bruh, if I'm ever running so far that I need belts with bottles on my waist, I was like, come up behind me and smack me in the back of the head and tell me to snap out of it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't 3 months later, and I'm, running with a bottle.
Yep. I know you probably got bottles and backpacks, and
I got backpacks and
hand bottles.
And I just went re-up all my tailwind. Like,
that's all. Yeah. And I mean, with all the spandex too, I'm also into road cycling, and there's plenty of people I'm like, I would never be caught dead in that. And that's me. You can see the chamois. That's the only thing that's protecting any inappropriateness. It's probably inappropriate as is, but
bought a pair of running tights this weekend. I was going to try.
There you go.
And I busted a hole in them as I was putting them on. So tight. And so I looked in the mirror, and it's like a piece of my ass cheek was poking out like a mushroom was sticking through this hole in these tight ass running shorts. I was like, this is the dumbest thing, boy. and had to go with the old trusties
Mhm.
to get rid of these new ones.
I got a pair of 1.5 inch. They may even only be an inch, like running shorts, to try and write a review of a few years ago. And I'm supposed to post pictures of me in them on social media. And I'm just like, this is just not, like, this is not what anyone should be seeing. You know? But I did. I even, like, I fired up the camera while I was on the treadmill. So there's a running video, which actually was a little better because you couldn't totally see anything because it was moving too much. That was probably for the best. Yeah. All right. We could keep going making fun of ridiculousness that we then ourselves bought and used and poked out of or whatever. Josh, you're awesome. I'm so thankful that you said yes. I couldn't believe, I pressured Howard to introduce you, and I was like, well, Howard will never do it and you'll never say yes. But, Howard didn't do it. And I was like, well, look, it's not happening. I might as well say it again. So I did. And he was like, oh yeah, I meant to do that. And you wrote right back, man. That was, I think I woke my wife up to go tell her. I was like, you'll never believe this. So thank you so much for doing this. It just means the world to me. And there's so much inspiration that you're putting out there, and with such passion. Like, that's what I love about it is you're like, it's hard not to be fired up by it.
There's a lot to be passionate about in this world, in this day and age that we live in. So like that, there's a lot to be passionate about. We should all be more passionate.
And get to be passionate about what you're doing, which is what I keep hearing from you. And so many people aren't.
Yeah.
And that's if they take nothing else from this, the fact that, like, I mean, look at where you came from, and while you had love and you cared about your community and all that, but you also had what was really a death sentence in a lot of ways.
Yep.
And a lack of opportunity. And you look at what you've created out of that. And the fact that, like, I mean, I just, maybe I'm wrong in this, but I keep picturing you like busting out of bed in the morning because you can't wait to get going enough. Like, with all that you're achieving. And that's like, I hope people feel that is like, it doesn't matter where you're coming from. You can overcome it. And you can, like, actually just have a life that's beautiful and is filled with, like, what you wish you were doing with yourself. That's completely possible.
But it doesn't happen without scary moments and times of uncertainty.
Yeah, which end up being good.
Right, which end up being good because everyone they say, okay, I'm gonna do this thing, and the minute it gets hard, they go back to the old thing.
Yeah, and the hard will keep coming, like you said with your injury. It's like, it's not like you got over it and it's done and now it's all fine. It's like you still have struggles.
It's exactly right. It's about life in a lot of ways is about the adversity. It's not about, the peace.
Yeah. You don't get muscles by not challenging your muscles. You got to put weight against them. You got to strain them. That's how you grow.
That's it.
Josh, I love it, man. Thank you. I feel like we could just keep throwing out little inspirational quotes here and there. But I'm going to let you go. Thank you once again for joining me. And, I didn't even say, where can people find you, right? JoshLaJaunie.com.
Yeah, JoshLaJaunie.com and then you can catch me on all my social media from there. But yeah, just go to my website, and I got my mom's gumbo recipe up there if you're interested in what gumbo tastes like without meat in it.
I was going to ask vegan gumbo.
Yeah, it's really good. And I have a little PDF that I share to just kind of give everybody my general sort of attack protocol when it comes to getting food. I call it making groceries, and you just how I like navigate the grocery store and eating throughout the day. Finding acceptable snacks and different things like that.
And that's all on your website?
Yeah, that's on my website. Just check it out and stay tuned. We got a lot cooking.
Yeah, there's a ton, and this app is going to be coming out. The research is going down. I'm excited for you.
It's going to be awesome, man.
Josh, thank you again for being on. And we keep hitting on this theme, but it's perfect because that's how I like to end it. Today is a new day.
Just do it.
Good stuff, man.
Wow. For those who don't know, I am such a huge Josh LaJaunie fan. I mean, that's a guy who has been inspiring me for a while now, at least a couple of years, maybe. No, not a couple, like 4 or 5, actually.
Since that is his first episode on the Rich Roll podcast, this is a guy who I'm just like, just connected, you know. There's too much overlap in our stories, in the feelings, all of it. It's just it's been really powerful for me. I hope that you got some of that too. I mean, what he has been through, you know, the sheer amount of weight that he's lost, the sheer amount of struggle and barriers that he's overcome. I mean, it's not just the 230 pounds that was on his body that he was struggling against. It's a whole system, it's a culture, it's a society. And he didn't just change himself. He has committed himself to changing that culture and that society for the sake of everybody's survival. And that's like, God, you know, talk about a purpose. So just humongous amounts of respect for Josh. And he makes it so simple. And you can think it isn't, but it actually is. It's 2 words, plants and running. Like, that's it. That's the magic. You know, it's just plants and running, and be consistent with that. You know, don't strive for perfection. Just be consistent on that simplicity, and you get there. And he gives so much of himself with that veracity he talks about. You can get so much of that from joshlajauni.com. It's JOSHLAJAUNIE.com. I love that, making groceries. You go and get that making groceries guidance so you can get some help in how to navigate the grocery store and make sure you're making good choices there, because it's not the easiest thing in the world if you're going it alone, if you're feeling lost, and he puts in the effort to help you get there. So, you know, follow Josh, check out his website. He's doing so much work for your betterment, for your benefit. So give the guy your support, because he's supporting you and society as a whole. So I'm a huge Josh LaJaunie fan, and I have a feeling everyone who listened to this is as well. So in addition to following Josh, you can follow me at Brian Falchuk on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Of course, check out brianfalchuk.com. I get all my articles up there so you can find some inspiration from my work. And if the message of Do a Day is inspiring you, then by all means go to doadaybook.com, and you can pick up the book. You can read more of the articles. You can get more of these podcast episodes. And yeah, you know, you're listening right now. Are you subscribed? You know, how do you know when a new episode's coming out? There's more inspiration, more people like Josh that you need to listen to for your own sake. So definitely subscribe to the Do a Day podcast on iTunes, on, you know, whatever platform you want to listen on. And please, you know, if you like what you're hearing, give us a review. It really helps spread the message, helps get things around. And I'm just thankful that you listened today. I hope that you're thankful as well. I have a feeling you are, because Josh is he's that kind of guy. You know, you can't help but feel inspired by it. So with that, I will say goodbye and keep on doing it, my friends.